So I just wanted to um, make sure, I'm autistic and I'm overwhelmed. Got a lot on my plate. Uh, because most of these criminals are government agents, they have to be prosecuted. Everybody's mandated to report waste, fraud, and abuse. Even if I weren't a sworn and immunized investigator, even if the perpetrators weren't government agents, and somebody, was doing something with public benefits frauds in my name, I'd have to report it. But I also swore an oath to protect people from Brady violations. And I know my father's been a target since before I was even born. Um, and there's a good chance that he's all of his marriages were deliberately like designed to bring him down. Um, I could be wrong about that. Um, I'm not going to say that for a fact, but considering who he has the goods on, I mean, come on, the Kennedys have been bilking their situation since the assassinations for decades. He's got the goods on them, and he's got the goods on the people who killed him. He's gonna be. He's got the goods on the biggest. That's actually the biggest scandal in U.S. history, um, and now it's actually tied to the Epstein scandal, which you would think would be the bigger scandal, because it's like really isn't. It's the same criminal organization, just a different generation of actors. Back then it was Senior Barry Goldwater and Joe Kennedy and John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy Sr. And today it's the Goldwater's kids are running DHS and Secret Service, and Bobby Kennedy at HHS. Jesus Christ. Making sure that the Goldwaters don't go to prison for falsifying medical records and social services records. You can't make this shit up, okay? And their whole thing is to divide families up so they can take the kids away because they're the pedos. They're. I used to call Beasley and the Masons a criminal organization of child molesters, and Pam Bondi is protecting them. Beasley should have got a whole lot of new charges, but all those parents could sue the state because he got those new victims because they didn't do their job on the first go around when they prosecuted him. They let him walk on RICO charges. Basically let him serve 3 years or something to run consecutive with a sentence he was serving on another charge. But they send me to prison for 18 months on an invalid 9-year-old warrant after I just nailed his ass for them. Oh, but see, they had to cover that up and say that I was the one enabling him when it was his damn Department of Corrections sex offender probation specialist who's a Navy officer. Yeah, we were supposed to go to court in March, and Obama declared war on Libya, and Officer Harris got deployed in the Navy, so we couldn't have a court. Meanwhile, Faye was basically being handled by one of the fraud doctors. It was her ex. They weren't really that serious. They weren't serious like she and I were. They were just kind of like, it wasn't really that serious. But they still had Ginger dry manipulating Faye to make sure that it was divide and conquer. Um, Plus, don't forget, I told you all the raccoons were the only reason why I stayed here, and I meant that. And that's important for me to make that point because they're saying it's a political hit job. Well, if I'm not staying here out of some loyalty to some, progressive politicians or whatever, that kind of blows their case up, their whole defense up. Not that it's a valid defense anyway, considering Chad's a Democratic, so he is anyway. Um, I am in a mood ever since Michaela Reigns. Yeah, I've been in a mood. Not a good one. Um, I can actually say I have a depressed mood, especially now that I'm away from the raccoons. And once I realized the raccoons were being poisoned with that stupid bioweapon, that doesn't mean that I have a clinical depression that I need medication for. It's environmental. Not to mention, I'm terminally ill with stage 4 cancer because I'm being murdered. I'm entitled to be in a piss poor mood. And I'm going over this because I watched Kim Iverson last night and she was talking about how the release of the Epstein files, a story like mine would be very difficult. Well, it wouldn't be difficult for people to believe because all you'd have to do is show them my medical records and CAT scan images and the audio recordings of these doctors doing what they're doing, bragging about murdering me, and then show the medical records to see how they're complete fiction. It's not like you needed to drop the Epstein files to get anybody to believe my story because I recorded everything. Yeah, the original recordings were in the tent that they just took over. I have a feeling that those 2 officers actually worked for Hochul, the ones that came and did the arrest, if you want to call it that. The detective was really cool. I don't think they're going to let that evidence get destroyed. I think they're going to let Park Ranger Preston do. They're watching him. They've been watching him all along. They're going to watch what he does and tries to do. But I don't think they're going to let my things be destroyed or whatever. But anyway, she was saying that all the files coming out. Now, I think it would be, I think letting things go the way you did, it's going to be easier to unite the country because there certainly would have been a large portion of the population that would have sympathized with what was being done to me. I'm basically kind of a female version of Emmett Till. And I think at this point, but I don't see how not having secure communications benefited this at all. But I'm confident that somebody's going to explain it to me, and I know that each lawyer has to present their case their way because they have to build it and see it, and they have to use evidence, and they have to play by rules. And that's another frustrating thing. I am a military investigator. Yes, I swore an oath to Chad Cronin, and I have to make sure nobody's victim of Brady violations. But it's still very frustrating because I know I can go to Georgia, hand everything to Dad, and things are going to happen a whole lot swifter. And let me tell you, Ranger Preston and Autumn Caton and her father and Becky Burrell and whoever her relatives are that were military, who were all too happy to help the Goldwaters and Weinbergers go after me to be able to go after my father, they deserve whatever harsh, swift, quick justice they decide to dispense, as since they are in fact terrorist insurgents. That's my only issue. That and the frickin' weather, having to be out in this crap and not be able to take care of myself. So it's very frustrating on my end to know that shit could be getting done real fast, and I wouldn't have to be. A whole lot of us wouldn't be suffering. It isn't just me. There's a whole lot of people on these streets in this weather. And it makes no sense because they're all victims of these frauds right along with me. None of us are getting proper victims advocates and services. I do appreciate the Miller Center, and I think that since all of us, it doesn't matter whether anybody does drugs or not. Who's bringing in the drugs? Epstein's Iran-Contra's partners in crime. Who's making sure that they're not getting proper care and treatment, which would include good housing and good jobs at a good pay, so they don't care about the drugs. So they pick up something else like a hobby, or most of them are artists. Most of them want to be artists. They may, like me, most of my skills have fallen to the wayside and they're crap right now, but there's other things they'd rather. Now, there are a few who really don't care to do anything else. And they're the narcissists that we're never going to be able to reform. But they're a small percentage. But the biggest majority of them are truly victims who deserve a safe place and a situation like the Miller Center to get everybody emergency housing if you can't get us all in hotel rooms under victims' rights. They're human trafficking victims just because it wasn't, there may not have been a sexual element to it for them directly, doesn't mean they're not human trafficking victims. And because it's a federal investigation, I don't see how Vermont should be like, well, we don't have the funding for it. You should be able to New York certainly does. And then once you seize everybody's assets, you're going to seize the Pomerleau's assets. You're going to seize Redstone's assets. You're going to seize a whole lot of assets. You're going to get that. It's going to pay for itself tenfold, or even more than that. I mean, for Christ's sake, they've been stealing millions of dollars a year. When you think of all the ridiculous rent they've been charging and then not paying proper wages, they're stealing billions. That's just in Vermont. Not to mention all the unbundling and upcoding crap and all the money they're stealing through the bogus charities. There's going to be plenty of money to pay for whatever they need. And you don't have to advertise it as that. I mean, I don't, in this woke crap about protocols, the only protocol you are required by law to follow is safety first. That's it. That's all. Period. My father taught me that. So you all can do whatever you want, however you want, because the situation is so ridiculous, and they wrote the protocols to make it harder for you to prosecute them and get the victims safe. Quit letting the criminals make the rules on how you prosecute the criminals and get the victim safe. I know I've mentioned that before. Then I'm damn sure going to be in piss poor mood when I'm not getting sleep and I look like the elephant man and both knees are buckling because there's so much fluid. Not because I did anything to my knee, but because there's just so much fluid in my legs. And it goes way above the ankle all the way up. Because I've been sitting upright all day and then never got to lay flat. And when I get to the Miller Center tonight, I'm going right straight to bed. I have to. If they need anything from me, they're going to have to wake me up. Because I'm not going to get in. I haven't slept. I'm not going to get any sleep before it's time to go there. But if there's not some sort of resolution with me having some sort of shelter, including if that means a damned ice fishing tent and a fucking wood stove, I can go buy the pellets. Oh, and a cot. That's all I need. Doesn't even have to be a wood stove. It could be a propane heater or a butane heater. A heat source, an ice fishing tent, and a cot. I've got several places I could pop one up and take it right back down real quick. I mean, it's not like I'm going to keep calling 211 every day. I'm not going to keep calling that stupid emergency housing number every day. I ain't fucking with that shit. And it's really stupid because most of those protocols I don't have to follow because I'm terminally ill. I should be given a room under SA or domestic violence, and that's it. I shouldn't have to jump through any hoops because I'm a murder victim. I'm terminally ill. I'm at the end of life. If it's not going to include work comp cancer care, then what the hell? Why do I have to search for permanent housing when I'm dying? Huh? I don't. I couldn't fulfill a lease. Nobody would rent to me. I deserve all kinds of special accommodations under the ADA for the fact that I'm terminal. And it's not that I'm just organically terminal. I'm being murdered with untreated, deliberately accelerated uterine cancer that's still rapidly metastasizing and causing collapsing lungs and all kinds of other problems. Neuropathy and whatever. I have a lot to manage. I've earned the right to be in a piss poor mood, especially with Michaela dead, a bunch of my raccoons dead. I'm not with them to help the ones that are left. I'm out in the fucking cold without my shit. I'm not